But anyways, I get in the movie theater. There's multiple other Spider-Men in there that have put their masks back on. They're like, "Hey, Spidey," and I'm like, "Hey, Spidey."
That's so funny. The image of you walking into a theater and turning and finding, like wearing the Spider-Man suit, turning in the theater and seeing a bunch of other Spider-Men holding popcorns, looking at you, and you all like nodding at each other is like you're home.
Yes, it was great. But then right before the movie, I was like, I better pee because I know this movie is going to be like 3 hours long.
Oh my God. Did you have to take the whole suit off?
No, I go into the bathroom. It like zips up in the back. I'm like, I can do it, whatever. I go into the bathroom and I go into a stall and I try to unzip. And I'm like, oh shit, like I can't unzip this. I need help. Luckily, one of my friends, I'm in there for like a minute trying to get it down. I'm like, oh man, this is going to be bad. One of my friends walks in the bathroom like, hey dude, can you unzip me? It was the most pathetic thing ever. Hey everybody, I'm Ryan.
And I'm Seth.
And welcome to the Writer's Room Talk Show.
What?
It's our second ever talk show. I guess now it's a tradition that we do these in between seasons of the Writer's Room game show. This season, we technically had 11 episodes because we had our Karma episode come out last week, Seth.
Yeah.
Which I liked. I thought it was really enjoyable.
I actually liked it a lot. I thought the episode was fun. I thought our focus group was fun. I thought the idea itself was actually one of my favorites of the season, surprisingly.
I think like the cars flying off the cliffs and then the silence and then them racing out of the cliffs, which we probably didn't end up using, but that was probably the hardest I'd laughed in that entire episode.
Oh, it's in the movie. We maybe didn't pitch it, but it's in the movie.
It's in the movie. Yeah. Speaking of our show today on our talk show, just right up front, we're going to be talking about and ranking our episodes from season 2 of Writer's Room Game Show, as well as talking about some of our favorite movies and TV shows of 2021. It's a new year, dude.
It is a new year, and boy, we both brought it in with a roar.
Do you want to talk about what you've been going through this year so far?
I mean, going through. I got the Omicron. I got it, and I still don't know where I got it from, either from my family or my wife's family, but
oh man,
promptly spread it to the other family, and
no fun.
It wasn't fun. Thankfully, I just had basically
ringing in the new year with
New Year's specifically. Like our daughters were like raising themselves upstairs. I told you this story, but I'm gonna say it on air because like raising themselves upstairs in the playroom in their room over the course of like 5 days. And they came down for New Year's Eve just for the countdown. And we hadn't been watching anything. So for New Year's, so I just turned on Hulu Live. I was like, went to the first one I could find, and there's this massive New Year's bash happening here in Nashville.
Oh no.
Arlie and I are sitting there both like COVID ridden, like riddled with COVID, watching.
Was this like near midnight or was it earlier in the night?
Near midnight. Okay. Just a massive amount of people in our city. Yeah. And I was like, we were just like, look at all those sick people. Like you just want to like roto them out and just put them in a hospital lobby. Like so stressful to see.
Yeah, it is weird how it's spreading so fast. I think half of my friend group has COVID right now, or is recovering from COVID, or has recovered from COVID.
So stupid.
Luckily, we haven't got it yet, but at this point, I'm just expecting it to happen and hope it's not bad. This freaking Omicron. We're boosted. Me and Whitney are boosted, so we just hope
we weren't boosted. From what I understand, if you're boosted, it's a much lower grade, like fever or aches and chills or something. Hopefully, in for most cases.
Well, you made it.
You made it too. You just had everybody in your family got sick with other things.
I think it was either a bug or a sign up. We tested negative for COVID, but there's allergies. The highest like cedar level in Texas ever, and Whitney's super allergic to cedar. I guess I have allergies now. It didn't really hit me hard until a few years ago.
I want a shirt or a hat that says "I guess I have allergies now" that I will wear for the rest of my life.
I don't know if that's just like getting old or what, if you suddenly have allergies. But I'm only 29 years old.
Really? Wait, is that really how old you are?
Yeah, July 28th, I'll be turning 30. But
have we talked about this on air, how much older I am than you? I didn't realize it.
I always feel like we're on even levels until I reveal my age, and then suddenly I turn into a baby from your perspective.
Can I tell you, that's how I feel. That's how I felt with so many people in my life. So I understand the feeling.
Oh, man. But yeah. Well, let's talk about movies, Seth. You look amazing.
I do.
Honestly, Jeff Goldblum, who you always have as your profile picture, I always am surprised when I remember how old he is by how he portrays himself. Maybe mid 40s.
Right.
It's insane. Anyway, let's talk about movies, Seth. Let's talk about, I know near the end of the year, you weren't able to see as many movies as you were wanting to, but there's a lot of incredible movies that came out in 2021.
You asked me to come with our top 5, but then
Yes.
you were like, I have more than 5. Why don't you just tell me your 5? I'll cancel them out. I'm like, no, I want to know what your actual top 5
I
are.
thought it'd be fun if we have like 10 total movies as opposed to like 7 that are shared between us. But
as opposed to just yeah. I have a feeling I do want to see how many of ours are.
I'll say my top 5, and then I'll do like honorable mentions stuff at the end.
I'm curious how many we share in our top 5.
Yeah. Do you want to rank them, or you want to just say them sort of? It's hard to rank, but
I do like loose rankings.
Yeah, same, very loose. It's always changing too, because I used to make these like super cuts every year of my favorite movies. I made one this year because I was at home for a while, and whatever, I'll spend a few hours making a little super cut.
That's a lot of work with the one I saw.
I mean, I probably spent like 4 to 8 hours doing it over a weekend.
Oh, it feels like you had the Behold Cinema clip and needed something to follow it with.
That's true. But I mean, I've been thinking about that clip all year. But no, I mean, I like editing them. But the thing is, I always finish editing them, and then immediately I'm like, I probably would change that order. And then I'll rewatch them a year later and be like, oh yeah, I definitely changed that order.
Yeah.
So they're loose rankings, but yeah.
I always, and this is how I am with my favorite movies in general, I'll like make a legit list of movies that I feel like are my favorite movies or my favorite movies of the year or TV shows. Mm-hmm. And then I look at them and I'm like, and I roll my eyes. Like, how predictable am I? How like simple am I? Like,
totally.
I feel like the least interesting person on the earth whenever I see my my rankings are my favorites.
People get really pretentious too about like end of year movie lists and stuff. And we know our tastes. We're very confident in the kind of movies we like. I don't need to prove to people
Listen
that
to this podcast and you know. We all know your number 1 is No Way Home. And
it's actually not. That was the most fun I had at the movies this year. But it's not my number 1.
Is it your number 2? I kind of want to guess your list.
No, you would be surprised. It's my number 5. It's Spider-Man No Way Home, because I rank them in very loosely, but it's like Spider-Man No Way Home was the most fun I've had at the movies all year. And it's like one, I saw it multiple times, but it's like that was the best theatrical experience. But if I start thinking about the movie too hard, I start really critiquing it as a movie and not just
I don't know how you didn't die in the theater. Like, I don't know how you didn't just stop living.
I died and I came back to life.
Several key moments in the film. I remember thinking, Polly's dead. I should check in with him.
Do we spoil it on this?
Killed him. No, we shouldn't. We shouldn't.
Too soon still, you think?
Not until it's digital. I think with COVID and everything, we should wait till it's digital.
Okay.
Even though the money says everyone's seen it. But
the trailers the commercials haven't spoiled it yet. So
but yes, there were several key moments. And one, if nothing, there's one shot in the third act that I was like, I need to call Polly and check on him and make sure he's okay.
I know which one you're talking about.
When you botched that spell where you wanted everyone to forget the Peter Parker Spider-Man, we started getting some visitors.
But yeah, I mean, it was my number 5. I would say, like I said, it was the most fun I had at the movies in multiple years, and it blew my mind. Just the sheer, even just production of that, of aligning
the logistics,
of making that happen, blew my mind. But also, just it's hard to. I'm not going to talk about it anymore because I feel like I'll spoil it. But also,
can you talk about your critiques? I want to know what your critiques were. Can you talk about those without being spoilery?
Not really.
Okay, another podcast, another episode. We'll do that.
It's easily my favorite John Watts Spider-Man movie, and I thought that his direction I liked the style, especially the first act of the movie, the style of it and how it was directed and the music choices, the camera moves, and it felt, there's something that felt a lot more confident and bold about it than the other 2 movies to me.
I'm very glad you thought that, because I've always been a fan of the John Watts Spider-Man. So,
and I really, really like him. It was just like this, always in the back of my mind. It's just the Sam Raimi movies are just like embedded in me as a Spider-Man fan of like, those are my movies as a kid that I just loved. And they're so wild and sort of crazy in terms of the style of the filmmaking.
They're singular. They're like, there's nothing like them. Like, it's good.
And I always want that now for Spider-Man movies. But there's like just the way the camera moved in this, and like there's lots of like sort of dolly zooms, and that it's like pushing in and zooming in, and like just the style of it I preferred over the other movies. Even though like Homecoming is very much a John Hughes style Spider-Man.
thing that surprises me so much.
I love John Hughes so much, but
I feel like if you didn't have Tobey Maguire Spider-Man, like I feel like Homecoming would be your movie. Like it would be totally. It's such a Ryan. It has so many Ryan Pauly things about it, which is why I get why it doesn't rank super high. It's
taking Spider-Man out of New York, which is like quintessential to me, and that's another thing that I didn't like about the first two movies. But now I just sound like a crazy it has to be this way because I'm a
no. This is a podcast. If people are listening to this, they're listening to this. I don't agree about the Spider-Man in New York in the set because I feel like the stuff of him in New York of the new, like the end of Far From Home, and it felt so fresh having him not be swinging around New York like that, Manhattan or whatever the difference is. Like, and it felt like I remember I am a huge Iron Man 3 fan.
I love Iron Man 3. Yeah, it's
so good. And I remember friends of mine, you don't know them, but they're dumb just because of this critique, which was like, if you their argument was that if you go to see an Iron Man movie, you want to at least see some of him actually in the suit. And I was like, well, you have two other Iron Man movies for that. That's what's so great about this one.
It's true. I did like that about Iron Man 3.
Yeah.
But for some reason didn't like it about whatever.
Spider-Man. I know. Anyway, you get the comparison there and how totally. I'm right. That's the most important part.
What would it be in your list? No Way Home.
So that was your number. Well, let's go in order, like number 5. Let's loose number 5. Why don't we? Do we want to do that or we want to
let's do it.
Go movies? Okay. Yeah. My number 5 is kind of a tie because I had these two movies and I didn't want to disclude either of them from my list.
Yeah.
And they are wildly different movies. Barb and Star go to Vista Del Mar.
I'm Barb and this is Star.
Room number again, please, Seth?
611.
611? Oh my, Barb. Oh my gosh, he's 6'11". 6'11"? We're in 124.
That's on my list, but not in the top 5. But I freaking love that movie.
I loved it so much. And the other one, which is not the same movie, it was CODA.
I get a feeling that I never had before.
You're the girl with the deaf family?
Yeah.
I just want to tell you right now.
And you sing. Interesting.
Which was on Apple TV.
I still haven't seen CODA, but it's on my list. I want to watch.
It's wonderful. It's such a sweet movie. It's just so sweet and sincere and funny, and the cast is amazing. And it just totally took me by surprise. I really, really loved CODA. And Barb and Star is just spectacular.
When the movie started, and there's a scene where she's like, a soda machine comes up, and she's like, "I'm gonna make a suicide," and then she. She fills up like a little bit of root beer, a little bit of lemon lime spritz. And then I'm like, this is my kind of movie. It almost felt like a new Austin Powers, where it's that really sort of farcical humor.
It definitely was very Austin Powers. When they were rolling around on the beach fighting and just keep on somersaulting, like through camera, like that's my jam. Like that's 100%
the musical moments. What is it? The Morgan Freeman crab. What was his name?
I've already forgotten so much of this movie. I think.
Yeah, it's a crazy movie, but I love that movie too. That's definitely one of my honorable mentions. Barb and Star.
Maybe I'll throw it to my number 4, and then we'll throw it to you. So a lot of throwing. No Way Home is my number 4.
Be careful what you wish for, Parker.
Hello, Peter.
Spoiler-free review.
I don't have a spoiler-free review except just that I will say this. There's a moment in the film that I think everybody's seen it, but who cares? There's a big scene where things happen and you see the thing and it cuts away, and then it cuts back to the thing. It's the second time seeing this thing. And the audience had like stopped freaking out by this point, right?
Yes. Is this in a dining room, this scene?
Yeah. And then when it cuts back to the thing, one guy in the back, and then again, everyone has seen this thing already. Everyone's calmed down. it cuts back, and this guy in the back just goes, "Oh my God." Like, and this just like this loudly, just this way of like, he still can't deal with the fact that what he's looking at. And it was so funny. I want a commentary track with like just the audience for this specific movie.
I literally, when the second person came through, I literally said, "Holy shit." Like very loudly. And I was in a Spider-Man suit in a movie theater. You would love. I wore my Spider-Man suit, mask and all. I couldn't see anything through my mask because it was dark, and I was like, I was walking with my arm on a hand on a friend's shoulder, so I could see.
I thought you were talking like in the theater. I was like, you could take it off in the theater, Paul.
No,
like,
I took the mask off in the theater. Well, I walked in at. Someone was immediately like, "Hey, Spidey," and I was like, I see why people would want to wear a Spider-Man suit now because everybody sees you and they're like, "Oh my gosh, that's Spider-Man." But anyways, I walk up to the ticket counter or whatever.
Is that a thing that people don't like to wear Spider-Man costumes or do? Or
no, I mean, I can see the appeal of wearing a Spider-Man costume. That's all I'm saying.
Oh, so you understand now why Peter Parker does it? Yes. Like before you didn't, but until you tried on the suit and actually walked around, now you get.
Anyone can wear the mask, Seth. But I walk up to the ticket counter and she's like, "Sir, you're gonna have to remove the mask." And I made like some sort of joke about like, "Wait, but wearing masks is good during COVID times." She's like, "No, but seriously, you got to take off the mask." I'm like, "Okay." But anyways, I get in the movie theater. There's multiple other Spider-Men in there that have put their masks back on. They're like, "Hey, Spidey," and I'm like, "Hey, Spidey."
That is so funny. The image of you walking into a theater and turning and finding, like, wearing the Spider-Man suit, turning in the theater and seeing a bunch of other Spider-Men holding popcorns, looking at you, and you all nodding at each other is like you're home.
Yes, it was great. But then right before the movie, I was like, I better pee because I know this movie's going to be like 3 hours long.
Oh my God. Do you have to take the whole suit off?
No, I go into the bathroom. It like zips up in the back. I'm like, I can do it, whatever. I go into the bathroom and I go into a stall and I try to unzip and I'm like, oh shit, like I can't unzip this. I need help. Luckily, one of my friends, I'm in there for like a minute trying to get it down. I'm like, oh man, this is going to be bad. One of my friends walks in the bathroom like, hey dude, can you unzip me? It was the most pathetic thing ever. And I ended up, it was the trailers were going. So I'm like, whatever. I'm just going to I'll leave my suit down. I had a hoodie on over it. But it was a very funny moment. Spider-Man No Way Home.
No Way Home.
What is my number 4? My number 4.
Are you ready? Tonight is about family. The first gringo boy who smiles at you.
I never seen you before. You're not Puerto Rican.
Is that okay?
It's West Side Story.
I haven't seen it yet.
It's so good. It's sort of one of those movies where I cried multiple times just from the sheer mastery of Spielberg's, just like the imagery he could still create. It's like he's the energy in the shots and it feels like he's 20 years old again. But how old is Spielberg these days?
60, almost 70 something.
It's crazy, just like him doing a musical and just like his complete mastery of the craft as a parent. And the performance are incredible. And the music, I never seen the original West Side Story. So it was brand new 75. To me. So that was really fun. Just sort of, I knew some of the songs just, because they're so ingrained in culture, but I never seen West Side Story. So it was, it was incredible. I loved it.
Have you watched it since?
No, I just saw it the one time.
No, I'm sorry. Have you seen the original?
Oh,
since?
No, I haven't watched the original.
Because I thought about proposing the two of us bring an additional special favorite movie you saw this year that you should have seen a long time ago.
Yes. That would definitely be on the list. But
I have one if you have one. But West Side Story I haven't seen. I should also disclaim before we get any further in the list that I still also haven't seen Mystic Pizza. So not Mystic Pizza.
Licorice
That's a different movie. Licorice Pizza. I still haven't seen Mystic Pizza with Julia Roberts. It's been decades.
I love that.
It's my fault.
Just randomly, I still haven't seen Mystic Pizza. Every year, I tell myself I'm going to watch it.
Every year, I'm going to watch Mystic Pizza. I never get around to it. It's my life's biggest regret.
I'm going to be slinging pizza for the rest of my life.
The best pizza.
Mystic Pizza.
What the hell do you think Leona really puts in that pizza?
It's love with the works.
What's your number 4 or number 3? I guess
number 3. Oh wait, no, you go number 3. We're going. 3. Yeah, you go
number 3 for me is Shang Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings.
Yes, of course it is.
Throughout my life, the 10 rings gave our family power. If If you want them to be yours one day, you have to show me you are strong enough to carry them.
Actually, and I could bring up a critique of Spider-Man No Way Home with the Shang-Chi. So, as you may know, if you're a listener or you're a friend of mine, I'm just very geek into sort of action kung fu movies. Shang-Chi, I had been looking forward to a long time because I also have a few Shang-Chi comics. I was familiar with the character, the master of kung fu, and in my mind, I was really hoping it would be the first.
Wait, you're familiar with the character and you're a master of kung fu? Is that what you just told us? You heard it here, folks.
His nickname is Master of Kung Fu in the comics. His original comics were titled that. I am not a Master of Kung Fu. I've never taken a single karate class. But anyways, I was very familiar with the character and I was looking forward to hopefully it being the first Marvel Studios movie with like legit action scenes that were choreographed and directed well and not just sort of this fast jump cutty kind of thing. I think people really liked the style of like the Russo brothers where it's lots of close-ups, very visceral.
Well, Winter Soldier, it was brand new to the franchise, so it was really exciting.
Yeah, totally. But I've always preferred like let the choreography play it in a wide shot and just like let's see like the dance of kung fu
and cover it in an interesting way. Like so, even if either cover it straight or be like Spielberg and cover it in a visceral way without cuts.
Totally. And that's what I feel like this movie did. In addition to having incredible characters and these really heartfelt father-son story.
A really great cast.
That I think Wenwu, Tony Leung's character is like one of the best Marvel
100%.
villains. Just because it's like you care about him and
his performance, he's so good. He's like
so good. Everybody, Aquafina's so funny. What's his name? Shang-Chi.
I forget, but I love the I forget his name. But
Simu
the fact that his like stock photos, so he was like
all the stock photos he took years ago.
Oh my god! And then he started using them in like on Twitter, like as the movie came out. Like
it's
so
funny. But yeah, the action in the film is really what stood out, and just the way they shot it. And like Bill Pope is the DP, who's one of my favorite DPs, who works with everybody from the Wachowskis to Edgar Wright to It's
everybody.
Sam Raimi.
It's a shame people aren't like Bill Pope heads like they are like Deacon's nuts. Like
totally.
Like Deacon's nuts is not a term. It's not something we say.
Deacon's nuts.
Deacon nuts.
But yeah, we're totally Pope heads in this house. Not to be confused with Dick Pope,
the Pope or the actual Pope,
or what the Academy president would call Dick Poop. But yeah, Bill Pope. Just the way it was shot and choreographed was incredible, and that was one of my big critiques of Spider-Man No Way Home was especially in some scenes the action was so. There's a scene at the very final fight scene of the film. This
it was hard to track.
Big moment. It's just like all close-ups and like kind of hard to track, and especially with Spider-Man.
Wait, the big moment? Are you talking about where a character is angry and taking out his anger on another character?
Yes.
I would say it merited there because that moment. It's not about the action; it's about the emotion and feeling of that.
Yeah, but
moment.
there is so many of that where it's like it's more just like it's like motion blur and things happening on the screen.
I felt that earlier in that scene.
I'm down with close-ups of the characters and seeing their reactions and stuff. But it's just there was so many little scenes in that movie where I was like, just like imagine if it was shot like Shang-Chi and we're just playing it in a master shot and maybe like moving in a wide and just seeing Spider-Man's acrobatics and seeing that kind of thing as opposed to
that's the thing. I agree with that about. I agree because I felt that way in several action sequences that weren't like emotion driven.
Gotcha. Yeah.
But I didn't feel. But I don't feel that way about that moment.
It's so hard to talk about it without the.
I know.
There's so much of it, and anyways, but I freaking love Shang-Chi. Is the movie I probably
we should end this podcast by just dropping the like a huge spoiler.
The thumbnail of this video is
so the thumbnail.
But yeah, it was the movie I saw the most this year.
It hasn't been out very long. Oh, Shang-Chi. I thought you meant No Way Home.
Because I saw it twice in theaters and then I think twice at home. On
I was gonna assume that what you meant was that you close your eyes through a lot of movies because you get so scared, and that was the one that you kept your eyes open the most.
Oh yeah, definitely.
You saw the most of that movie out of all the movies you saw.
Okay, what was your number?
Polly
3?
gets scared. We've learned from the story of his child's birth that like Polly can't handle really rough situations. Anyway. I'm kidding. I love you. This is a stupid joke.
I love you too.
Throughout all the years that I've been making music, if you get on a tour bus with a bunch of musicians, eventually the conversation will go to sparks.
I remember just seeing them all the time, like, who are those guys? They are a band who you can look up on Wikipedia and know nothing.
We are Sparks, dude.
The Sparks Brothers is my number 3. I came to it late, and
it's on my. I think that was my number 6.
I loved it, man. It just inspired the living crap out of me. The idea, like, one, I had never heard of this band, and I was really...
Isn't that crazy? I was the same way.
It's ashamed that I'd never heard of this band, especially after, like, Arlie and I both were watching it. Like, it kept going with every album that came out. We'd be like, how have we never heard any of this? Yeah. And then it kept getting better. Like, they kept getting better with every album. And I thought the way that Edgar Wright did it was like so Edgar Wright and so fun and never took itself too seriously. And it just did such a great job of showing like the tenacity of doing professional creative work and like,
and just like the determination of just continuing to create for yourself without. Yeah.
And like, it was so good. I loved it.
I love that it shows, it not only like tells their story and shows their evolution, but it also shows them failing and like, you know, maybe we can try to do it. Like they'll listen to their manager and re-release a bunch of songs in a new way. And then they see that they fail doing that. And they're like, no, we need to keep on doing things new and keep on creating and doing things that we want to do and that we love and that other people will love that as well, which I love. And yeah, just like, it's such an inspiring movie to watch too, because you can take what you learned from the Sparks Brothers and apply it to any creative, you know, field that you're in. And just the music is incredible. Because I remember the first time I watched it was at 4 a.m. I did a Sundance online last year, and it like premiered at Sundance because I was like a huge Edgar Wright fan. I'm like, I'm gonna watch this movie, but I didn't understand how the festival was working, and I had bought it was like a 10 p.m. showing the night before, and I wasn't able to make it, and so the rental went out by 10 a.m. the next morning, and I had like a shoot that day, and so I like with an early call time, so I'm like, I have to watch this like super early in the morning.
Oh my gosh!
So I watched it at 4. I like woke up and watched it at 4 a.m. and it was like blowing my mind.
That's incredible.
It's a very memorable experience because of that.
And then you slept through the shoot.
Thankfully not. Yeah, I freaking love that movie.
There's the specific chapter that might have been in the 90s, or like it just kept showing like years passing and them like working. They weren't putting work out, and in that season, I remember it was that feeling of they keep showing New Year, like the New Year's Eve like ball dropping, or like the like the TV coverage, whatever. And I forget who it is who was talking about this, about how they were like during that season they put work out, and whatever album came out and didn't do anything, and there is that they said something like how they really were looking like really, really bummed that they were making stuff that they were really proud of, and it wasn't connecting with people, and they didn't know why, and they had no explanation. My wife, and it's one of those moments in like movies where my wife immediately checks to see if I'm crying, like, are you okay? Because that sounds like something that would make you cry. And I'm like, because it's just such a universally like relatable thing for especially people in creative work, like the idea of like pouring yourself into stuff over and over and continuing to get up every day and work, and like it doesn't always connect with people, and most of the time it doesn't connect with other people, and questioning the value of it in that case. And
yeah, totally.
That's my number 3. Do I go to number 2 now?
Something that's great about that movie too, that I think right after you watched it, you sent something to me or tagged me in something with the song Collaborations Don't Work. Which is I love that segment where they make an album with Franz Ferdinand, and the single from the album is called Collaborations Don't Work, where they just sing that over and over, proving that collaborations actually do work.
I love that song so much.
It's so good. A good theme of the show. At least for us, we never done before this. Although you started VFX and Chill right at the same time. Proving that collaborations definitely do work.
Well, you know what? I will say this. I don't know if I've said this on air. This podcast and VFX and Chill both brought a huge revelation to me that I've needed for the past several years, or for longer than that even. I've always known that, not always, but I've known for a very long time that you have to make sure that the process of making something is rewarding in itself. You have to find the rewards in the process, because the results you're never guaranteed like fulfillment from that. And more often than not, like we were saying earlier about, talking about the Sparks movie, like it's very, very, it's likely that the results won't pay off, give you back the amount of work that you put in.
Yeah.
So you have to get that back in the process. But man, these this show and VFX and Chill both showed me this past year. They're like, I don't want to work on anything by myself, like for the foreseeable future. Like I really only want to work on projects that are collaborations with other people because they've just been so freaking fun and rewarding, and the work itself is incredibly proud of the work itself. But more than anything, it's just more fun, like doing this stuff.
Totally.
I wish we had a sponsor this episode, because Rene could play us out with collaborations don't work into the sponsor. Exactly. Let's just do it. Let's pretend we're going to ad, and we'll be right back after this quick clip of collaborations don't work.
We're not getting monetized anyways.
It's true.
Collaborations don't work. They don't work. They don't work. Collaborations don't work. They don't work. They don't work. Collaborations don't work. They don't work. They don't work. I'm gonna do it all by myself. I'm gonna do it all by myself.
And we're back. I hope you enjoyed that. So, what do I go to? My number 3 now, or my number 2?
Yeah. Was that your number 3?
That was my number 3.
Okay, go to number 2.
My planet Arrakis is so beautiful when the sun is low. Rolling over the sands, you can see spice in the air. The outsiders ravage our lands in front of our eyes. Their cruelty to my people is all I've known. What's to become of our world?
Dune. That's on my honorable mentions as well.
Yeah, it's amazing, and I was like, is it too obvious to put Dune on it? But like we talked about this before, but
so it's Tune. Number Tune. Dune.
I'm gonna let you decide if you want Rene to cut that out or keep it, because I respect you, and I think
we leave everything in.
Nah, Dune's just great. You said it on the podcast. Denis Villeneuve.
Yeah, Villeneuve. Yeah.
Villeneuve. It feels like I shouldn't say the V. It feels like the word is done being said before I get to the V. Denis Villeneuve. Anyway, I don't know how he does what he does. I watch his movies and I can't quantify like what's happening and break it down. It is just complete magic. So I loved every second of it. And I saw it. Yeah, it was great. About you?
Did you see that one in theaters or on?
I did. In IMAX,
nice.
And that helped a lot.
Yeah, I saw it in Atmos, so it's incredible. My number 2, I Have a Feeling, is your number 1.
Every family has its challenges.
We haven't had a good family picture in years because you two are always arguing.
For my family, our greatest challenge, probably the robot apocalypse.
Mitchells versus the Machines.
Mitchells versus the Machines.
We'll see if I'm correct. Yeah, incredible movie. I feel like we've talked about it multiple times since we mentioned Phil Lord and Chris Miller every other episode of Writers Room Game Show, who wrote the movie.
Let's say it one more time, just hoping that they'll hear it. Phil Lord and Chris Miller. Phil Lord and Chris Miller.
Which I always terribly always forget the director's name who directed this movie.
Mike Rionda.
Mike Rionda. Yeah, we've talked about this movie a lot. Beautiful, heartfelt story, incredible characters, insane animation, a wacky sort of comedy that you expect from Phil Lord and Chris Miller. Also, just incredibly smart.
Have you watched any Gravity Falls?
No, I have it saved on Disney Plus to watch.
It's a masterpiece. You got to watch it as soon as you can.
You told me it's like Twin Peaks meets, which you mentioned Twin Peaks to me about anything, and I'll probably watch it eventually. But yeah, I really want to watch it. It's hard because Whitney, I always want to watch animation and cartoons with Whitney. It's harder for her to get into unless she like really, really likes it. Like Adventure Time was totally her bag. I think that's probably the last like animated television show she really got into. I watched a ton of it, but I'm hoping maybe she would like Gravity Falls, because I'd love to. I unfortunately don't have kids to watch it with, so.
You do, but she just won't pay attention.
She'll just scream at me the entire time.
Yeah,
but,
you got to watch Gravity Falls as soon as you can. It's yes.
Yeah, but Mitchell vs. the Machines, number 2. It was it would probably switch with my number 1 a lot. Which, do I say my number 1 now?
Yeah.
Do you know who I am?
Yeah.
Do you know who my girlfriend is?
Barbra Streisand?
Barbra Streisand.
Sand.
Yeah, like sands. Like the ocean, like beaches.
Barbra Streisand?
No, like Streisand.
sand.
My number one's Licorice Pizza, Paul Thomas Anderson movie.
Mystic Pizza.
Mystic Pizza with Julia Roberts. Yeah, this movie was like...
That's what I was going to guess was your number one.
The most magical experience for me in the theaters because I saw it like on 70 millimeter, which is like, I think how it's supposed like...
Let's always assume that 70 millimeter film is how everything's supposed to be.
Yeah. So visually, it's just like this, always this magical thing when you're watching something on film that was shot on film and you're seeing the sort of grain and the texture in it, but also just the story. I'm not like the biggest Paul Thomas Anderson fan. I like a lot of his movies, but he's not one of those like...
You and I are the same. We're just the same person. Like,
yeah, like
I have I love Paul Thomas Anderson. I have a huge amount. I love so many of his movies, but I've never been the Paul's nuts that everyone else is.
Yeah. False. Great callback. Yeah, I mean, like Phantom Thread, I actually really loved. Like that was his last movie, and I feel like that's usually people talk about like, oh, There Will Be Blood and Magnolia and a lot of, but No Country for Old Men, I think we can agree is no, that's the Coen, but There Will Be Blood.
It's just any movie we want now.
They were like the two Oscar movies of that year that like I always switch the names in.
There Will Be Old Men,
but yes, There Will Be Blood. I think most people would say like the masterpiece. But anyways, this movie, Licorice Pizza, was like probably his most like joy-filled movie and like positive and like optimistic. And it's like this love story between these like a very mature teenager and a super immature young adult, but it's like told over, a few years in their life. And it's just, it doesn't really have a plot. It's all character and visuals and this incredible soundtrack. And I don't know. It was just like it's one of those movies where you watch in the movie theater and you're like, this is why we watch movies, this is cinema. Behold, cinema.
I wish that Martin Scorsese was always over your shoulder whenever you like felt that. Could always turn and he'd be right there. This is cinema.
This is cinema. But seriously, it is that like experience where it just fills you like your heart with so much like emotion, which I felt in different ways with different movies this year. Like No Way Home, it was more of like a pure like giddy like childhood joy, where this is just
an adult joy is what you got from this, from Mystic Pizza.
Oh man. Anyways, that's my number one. What's your number one, Seth?
The last humans must be here somewhere. Wait.
They're coming.
Is that a burnt orange 1993 station wagon? Or is it... Who are these unstoppable warriors?
We're the Mitchells, the only people who can save the world. I'm super sorry, everyone.
My number one is Mitchells versus the Machines, of course.
I knew it.
You knew it. I'm very predictable. I'm the least interesting person. It was great. It was so good. It was everything I want in a movie. It was absolutely hilarious. It was so creatively masterfully executed in such a non-traditional way, but without being arbitrary. But like, it was just clearly a ton of work on screen. I love anything that looks like a ton of work and feels effortless.
Yes, totally.
And probably most importantly for me right now in my life, I could watch it. I was supposed to watch it with my kids. Like, I love anything that I can watch with my kids or should watch with my kids. This is all of us.
Meant for I was going to say dads and their daughters, but really it's the entire family. There's like this amazing relationship between everyone in the entire family.
They're all so well written. They all get their moments.
Yeah.
Like, I think my favorite moment from any movie this past year is I and Linda Mitchell, Mother of Four.
Yes. So good. Her flying through the air.
Oh my God. There's a move of choreography where she's like, dodging robots, hitting them. And then she does this number where she throws her head. Like, it's unbelievably good. Like,
I love it so much.
Yeah.
Yeah, and just Katie Mitchell being like a movie fan herself and like a filmmaker herself. Like, that was really fun to see this movie about a young filmmaker as well. Like, it's just a fun I don't know. I love that movie. My honorable mentions, some that you talked about, like Barb and Star and Sparks Brothers. Also wanted to mention Last Night in Soho, the other Edgar Wright movie, which I really liked. Minari, which came out in like January
That was
or
2020,
February.
I thought. I would have put that on my list had it been. But Letterboxd had it as 2020, so I discounted it.
For some reason it says it, but it only came out in festivals then. Like it didn't come out to everybody else till like January, February, or March or something like that. At least that's when I saw it, and I saw it like at a A24 screening room thing or whatever. And then also French Dispatch, the Wes Anderson movie.
Oh yeah, I don't know. I'm surprised that didn't end up on our top fives.
I love that movie. It's like
I
six for me probably.
It was great, but I think the reason it didn't end up on my top 5 was because I rewatched Grand Budapest Hotel right before watching it.
So you were comparing the two.
I had forgotten that Grand Budapest Hotel was as good as it is. Like
so freaking good. That's my favorite of his.
I think it is mine too. I didn't even realize it was. I had seen it in the theater, but rewatching it, I was like, this movie is spectacular. Like, it's just perfect in so many ways. And so, unfortunately, it outshined French Dispatch.
To me, if you cut like 20 minutes out of the Chalamet segment, the middle segment, it would have been like 10 times better for me.
Yeah, I can see that.
But anyways, we are going very long, so I think
we are. We had TV shows we were going to list, but why don't we just blow through them?
Let's just list our TV shows real quick, and then we can rank our episodes.
All right, let's start from number 5, and I'm going to say this is my non-Ted Lasso top 5 TV shows of this
That
year.
sounds good. Okay, that sounds good.
All right, so
you just
I'll
go
say
through
5.
your list,
I'll say
and then
my 5.
go
You
through
say
mine.
your 5, and then here we go. All right. My number 5 is Dope Sick.
Oh, I didn't watch that. Okay.
Michael Keaton's great in it, and it's really, really good. Yeah.
Nice. The White Lotus.
Mare of Easttown.
Dang, I forgot Mare of Easttown. That's your number 4?
Yeah.
Dang it. Okay, that would have been on my list for sure.
Yeah.
Pin 15, number 4.
Shrink Next Door.
It didn't finish it. I wasn't super into Shrink Next Door.
I was for some reason. I loved it.
Reservation Dogs.
Oh, I didn't get to that one.
That's my number 3.
Loki. Only Murders in the Building.
Only Murders in the Building.
It was just perfect. It was something I didn't know I wanted or needed. And now I need so much more of it.
It's so good. And Loki, there was a lot of good TV too. Loki was my number 2. I wanted to somehow squeeze WandaVision on there. Mare of Easttown, I wanted to get on my list now that I'm thinking about it.
Yeah. Mare of Easttown makes it on my list legitimately, like for a tons of other reasons. But if I only needed one reason, it would still get on my list for its production design. Like there's an insert where she opens a drawer, like a junk drawer, to get stuff out, and the junk drawer was everything about that junk drawer is the most it's the most convincing shot of anything I've seen this past year.
Yeah.
So
looks
good.
like a junk drawer.
It all looks so real. It just felt fantastic. Yeah, real and fantastic.
Yeah,
so that's our TV shows. Now we gotta rank our episodes.
Let's rank them. Yeah, totally. I'd say we got another 20 minutes before people start tuning out. I'd say.
Yeah. Well, yeah. They're still listening. Okay.
if they haven't already. So first, well, if you made it this far, you're probably a super fan of our podcast and you know all the episodes. And so, including Karma, which is our sort of bonus episode of season 2, we've got 11 episodes. And because we changed our focus group thing this year and we're actually scoring them, we have a ranking of the best scores of the season. So before we rank our personal preferences of our episodes like we did last season, I'm going to go through an order of point totals of what these were scored this year. If you're a longtime listener, you'll probably know the first 2 on the list, but I'm just going to start reading them off. Coming 11th on our list, Seth, could you guess what it is?
Wild Wild West or Salt and Pepper?
Wild Wild West had 18 out of 40 points, coming in 11th. 10th place, we have Salt and Pepper with 27 points, which honestly, Lindsay gave us a lot more points than we deserved with Salt
Way
and Pepper.
more. Yeah.
9th on the list is Karma with 30 points. 8th on the list is John Carpenter's The Computer Wore Tennis Shoes.
That's
with
a shame.
35 points.
That's too low.
Tied
well,
for
35. You were now. Yeah, I see.
Tied for 7th is The Atrium and Polybius with 36 points. And 5th place is the Pratfall Trilogy with 36.142 points.
Interesting.
That was, a Worley
Oh, that's
gave
because of Elliot.
decimal points.
0.14. I love him. Oh, I love him. He's awesome.
Smart. He's a smart boy.
Smart boy. So smart. He's so smart.
And 4th place is Soft Air with 37 points, co-written by Mr. Ryan Booth. 3rd place is Indiana Jones and the Destroyer of Worlds with 39 points.
3rd place.
And 2nd place is Boots with the perfect 40. And in 1st place is Into the Santaverse with a perfect 41.
I forgot we got a 41 on Into the Santaverse. How did we get a 41?
Well, I think Santa just used his magic to add an extra point at the end. I can't explain it, but he was drunk on his quote-unquote eggnog.
Yep.
In a, what was that, Bacardi bottle?
I think it was Bacardi. It was a peppermint Bacardi bottle. Yeah. It's normal for you to disguise unalcoholic drinks in an alcoholic beverage container.
Yes, of course. Put your eggnog in an old vodka bottle. But that was the point totals. But knowing that, I know our preferences would be a lot different than how we were ranked by our focus group. So let's go ahead and start with our own personal 11s. I can start with mine. Last place, I would say Wild Wild West for me.
Hey, me too. I thought you were going to go Salt and Pepper last, but I hated Wild Wild West so much more than Salt and Pepper.
It's hard because we couldn't get anything, and where in Salt and Pepper, we sort of doubled down on our bad idea. We couldn't even think of an idea for this one, so we just ended up remaking an old show. And
we should also talk about the number of calls we got. I don't think I showed you all of them.
Did we get a lot of shows or a lot of calls about Wild Wild West?
Mainly that we didn't go to Rocky Raccoon, which is the most obvious.
And even like thinking about Wild Wild West, we could have done a buddy western about Blackbird and Rocky Raccoon.
Yeah,
you know, like
I still would hate it. I think I still would hate it. I just wasn't a fan of that. But I will say that episode had a very funny focus group. We're not grading the episodes; we're grading the idea. But I will say that Cody was one of the most fun focus groups we ever had, and I would have.
And I
wish we'd had him on for the whole episode.
He was actually being very strict with his.
I appreciated that,
which I think makes it I think a lot of these point totals are a little biased because they were trying to be nice to us by judging it well, and that's okay because I would probably do the same thing at their shoes.
Well, I put what's fun. So my number 10. I'm gonna keep us going up here. We both had the same 11. Salt and Pepper was my number 10.
It was my number 10 as well.
And I actually put it above Wild Wild West because I felt conceptually, I still believe there's actually there's one good version of our concept written by a different writer.
Yeah.
Written by someone who knows the material, and with a lot of work to make all of the kitchen utensils and hip hop world parallels.
I feel the exact same. That's why I put it number 10.
I feel like there's a good version of that out there somewhere that would blow people out of the water.
There's something there. That's what they would say.
We just couldn't find it.
Yes.
What's your number 9?
Okay, my number 9 is the Pratfall trilogy.
Oh my God, we have the same list.
Yours is number 9 as well? Yeah,
it's the most generic idea we've ever written.
Totally. And I think it was hard too because I freaking love Jeff Kanata. I was so happy he came to our one of the only guests that I've reached out cold to that actually has responded. And it helps that he's also a co-host of my favorite podcast.
We've reached out to a lot of people cold.
Yeah.
We got a response from him. It's positive.
Yep.
Awesome.
Yep.
And we got one really cool, not even rejection, but just ask me again later on, which could be a rejection.
Which hopefully I'm going to be blushing that entire episode if she actually comes on.
Yeah, because we're huge fans of her and it would be amazing to have her on the show. We won't say who it is until she says yes.
It has something to do with our favorite TV shows.
Yes, we'll say that.
But yeah, Pratfall, and it was a hard thing because I feel like we all had different ideas and we couldn't quite agree on one, so we sort of landed on sort of a generic idea. I feel like we've kind of seen, but we had a lot of fun that I ranked it above the other two because one, it's a little bit more complete idea, and I had a ton of fun once we were coming up with ideas, talking about Chris Pratt and Tom Holland and all this stupid stuff.
Yeah.
And the pitch, we basically improv the pitch to the focus
group. We did what we
group.
should have done in the episode.
And
we yes-anded our way through that.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's how we came up with the idea. And I was like, oh, that was so much better than the previous 50 minutes that we recorded.
Elliot, I think later told me, he was like, I had no idea that you had not actually written the amount that you pitched.
Yes, the whole thing.
We listening back to that episode, we just didn't commit to any ideas, and we critiqued each other's ideas, which was done. I'm guilty of it more than anybody on that episode.
We should have just said, that's a great idea. Let's go with that, and then continue on until we get to the end of the 3 movies or whatever.
Yeah,
because we had to do a trilogy.
All right, number 8. My number 8, Into the Santaverse.
Oh my! Okay, we're vastly different now.
Okay, because I don't love where we landed. I loved where we were going. I would go back and find a way. I don't know. I felt like we were really simple until we brought in Frosty's daughter and lost the I feel like there was something there, but it also just felt so ridiculous.
Yes.
I'm grading these ideas in terms of how comfortable I would be going and writing and making them now.
Okay,
right?
gotcha. Yeah, that's how I judged probably half of it, and then the other half was I love this idea.
Yeah.
My number 8 is Soft Air.
I'm not surprised. I know you weren't a big fan of the idea.
I wasn't crazy about the idea when we were doing it. But I know objectively I was like, this is really good. But I think, yeah, it comes down to, would I actually make this, and would the process of it I didn't enjoy as much as the next 7 on my list.
Yeah.
Coming up with the idea.
Nothing against Ryan Booth at all. Like that was a really fun episode to record. And
absolutely.
I could just tell you weren't as into that idea necessarily as
totally,
the others.
And it also was like, anytime a guest comes on, whatever idea they're excited about, I'm like, we're doing that idea because I want them to
unless
more
it's
than us.
Jeff Canada, which we both just crapped on all of his ideas that he pitched.
Oh no, we love you, Jeff. I know you're not listening.
We do love you, Jeff.
We love you.
I know you're not listening is a very funny way to say it.
Oh man, but yeah, that's my number 7 was Boots.
Oh, interesting.
And it's another one where I'm like, I just enjoyed the process of the other ones so much more. Boots, I think, is one that you could actually probably realistically make if you had the budget to do maybe one like race scene.
If you had the budget, and if you had Dan Sturm's notes that he gave us later on a from the notes call,
because that completely changes the idea where it's like, okay, incorporate the racing scene into the heist element and have him robbing from another team hires him to rob that kind of stuff. I actually forgot about that. It would probably move it up my list. Not that I'm thinking about
that moved it up for me. My what are we on number 7?
Yeah.
My number 7 was Indiana Jones and the Destroyer of Worlds.
That's my number 6.
I really liked what we did with it. I love that our solution was just to make it more cohesive and to make it more character driven and emotional.
Yeah.
And I thought what we came up with conceptually felt like it would be much better than what ended up being on there. And we had the benefit of time and the lack of politics, which I guarantee you is what bogged down the original.
And the best part about that too is that we got to travel back in time, and I was hanging out with George, hanging out with Kathleen.
I think that's one of our funniest episodes, personally. I loved our
I got to listen to you tell me the synopsis of a movie for 15 minutes.
Okay. I think the beginning of that episode is great. And the when we finally start writing part of the episode is great. The entire hour in between where I just tell you, I recap Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull is a low point of the show.
I love it.
But
that was my number 6. So
my number 6 was
probably the
Polybius.
same reasons. Okay, awesome. Yeah, we've got a very different list now.
Yeah, I know that's much higher on the list for you.
Yeah. Tell me why it's your number 6.
Well, did you have anything about Indiana Jones you wanted to say before I get to
I basically feel the same as you. I really enjoyed. I want to revisit the movie now after we've done the episode. But from what I remember from the movie, I felt like what we did actually really improved some of what we thought were flaws. Some other people may think differently, but I'm like, I would watch the hell out of that movie.
I think we kept the monkeys, which I think didn't solve major problems for most people.
Yes. Yeah, we definitely kept the monkeys and the ants and all that.
I loved Polybius. However, I think part of it is that I have another idea I've always wanted to do around Polybius, although I still really like what we did. So I think for me at this point, it's that the other ideas feel a little bit above this, feel either cleaner or more exciting to me than Polybius was. And so for that reason, I'm out. No, I mean,
I will say too, I will talk about it later but Polybius is the one that I've taken elements from our idea and incorporated them to some new ideas I have that I kind of want to develop for a feature, but I'll talk about that later. That's the only one on this list that I'm getting really excited about some ideas
Polybius?
we came up with. Yeah. That was number 6. My number 5 is Karma.
Wait, well, your number 6 was what? Indiana Jones?
Indy, yeah.
Oh, that's right. 5 was Karma. Okay.
Yeah. And it's very fresh because we just recorded it a little bit more recently. We haven't recorded anything in like a month, which is kind of crazy.
I think I told you this, Mike. I was in a really terrible mood like a few days after Christmas, even before getting COVID. And
yeah.
I couldn't figure out why I was in such a bad mood. And Arlie was like, you haven't recorded in a while. Like you haven't recorded with Hashi or Polly in a while. Like, and it was totally true that my joy was gone.
Yes. Same.
All I had was my wife and kids.
Oh man. But yeah, this one's a lot more fresh, but I really like the idea we came up with, but I think thinking about the critiques that Haley got us and how underbaked our titular, Karma girl was.
Phonehead.
Phonehead, yes, that's right.
How could you call her underbaked when her name is Phonehead?
I love the idea of the plot and how the sort of the plot device and how we get her on her journey and her meeting hiker guy.
How could you call these characters underbaked?
But yeah, once you started critiquing it, I'm like, damn, like we didn't work on character at all. And I know sometimes we get to that point where we can really develop that character, but we were so like plot driven that we kind of forgot about like who this person is.
Yeah.
So that's why it's a little lower on my list. That's my number 5, Karma.
My number 5 was Boots. Karma. No, Boots. My number 5 was Boots and Boots and Boots. I thought
putting boots on streets.
One, the song was surprisingly fun. I really liked the song. Two,
yes,
I liked the character and the like fatal flaw that we created for that character. I thought was really nice chemistry for something fun. And the vomit. I think I love the vomit scene because it was so polarizing.
Yes.
Like our sponsors were like loved everything except maybe the vomit. And yet other people were like that's brilliant. Like that's the timing. And so yeah. Boots. Number 4 for me.
An edgy character too. I mean, you have a guy who can only drive when he's drunk. It's like that classic, just like let's put two things that don't go together, and that's our. Anyways,
and it deals
4.
with stuff that I love, which is like identity in your vocation and like that. I'm always a fan of that theme. Number 4 for me was John Carpenter's The Computer Wore Jordans.
That's my number 4 as well.
It's
we had
so
to put
terrible.
It high.
It's such a terrible idea, but
Yes.
if I would make that movie in a heartbeat.
And the thing is, other than just how
and I would still call it John Carpenter's The Computer Wore Jordans.
I was going to say, like, the idea is so dumb, and I love it so much. And add in the fact that John Carpenter hypothetically would be directing this, and I'm like, yeah, number 4, easy. But if he's not, and it's one of us making it, I would still call it John Carpenter's The Computer Wore Jordans. Yeah, I mean, what is there to say about this movie?
Well, that was your number 4 also?
Yes.
Well, what was your number 3?
My number 3 was The Atrium.
Ooh, The Atrium. I remember that one.
Okay, it's not your number 3.
No.
It sounds like, but it's still on your list, so that's fun. The Atrium, I love our central character. I forgot her name already. Oh, Amelie. Amelie, right?
Oh
Wasn't
my
that her
God,
name?
Paulie.
That's my daughter's name.
It's your daughter's name.
I haven't re-listened to these episodes since we recorded them.
Not even when we're supposed to review them. That's how several F words got by.
There was one, wasn't there? Was it this
on the episode
or...
my son was in?
Oh no.
Where I say to Jeff Canado, we're just going to bleep the F words. Don't worry.
Was it Jeff saying it?
It was, yeah, I think so.
Oh, he's not listening anyways. Just kidding. But yeah, I loved our central character and the characters that surrounded them, and sort of the idea behind this big corporate company and the sort of cyber thriller tech that is within it. Plus, toss in Eric's incredible
Hall of Walls
idea, and like the idea of them trying to escape this place, and that some of the set pieces we came up with, I freaking loved. So this is one that I'm like, this to me seems like a much bigger budget movie in terms of like us actually making it, but I could see us actually writing this screenplay for sure of, the central idea of the Atrium.
100%.
But that's my number 3. The Atrium.
My number 3 was Soft Air. And I think it's because I got so many texts from people who listened to it that were like, that specifically said,
that's terrifying.
Yeah, someone having a real gun in an airsoft tournament is terrifying. And I was like, and the more they said that, I was like, yeah, it really is. I think that alone, like, so basically like public validation caused it to go higher up on the list.
Totally.
Shameless. But I don't know if I would write and direct it, but I would definitely produce it. Like, but I as a powerful producer that I am, the weight that I pull in town.
What's your number 2?
The Atrium.
The Atrium, nice.
I loved the Portal 2 of it all, and I love the ending. Honestly, just the ending. I love my character getting up out of the wreckage, like limping to a shitty car, getting into it and driving off into the sunset is like, that's my kind of ending. It just, story's done. It's done. Yeah. I was a big fan of
and
set
not even
pieces
cut
we
to
made.
black. The credits just start rolling as the car's driving off.
Yes,
unexpectedly.
100%.
Yeah, that's a very like 90s blockbuster kind of ending that I love.
I love how contained the story is too.
Yeah.
And like,
because it all would take place at this one location.
Assumedly in like one day or one night. So
totally.
Yeah, I'm a big fan. What's your number 1?
I've got my number 2.
Oh, number 2, sorry.
Into the Santaverse is my number 2. And it's purely because I love how ridiculous the idea is and how much fun we had creating this. I agree with you that it got out of hand a little bit with where it went and how like not simple it became. But the core idea of these pirates going to the North Pole to get like a treasure that like the last treasure, because they've already conquered 6 of the 7 seas. So they just need and Santa being the one to protect it.
To me, the thing where that idea was perfect and like where it peaked right before we started ruining it was Santa having to return baby Jesus to the manger to save the history of Christmas. That's where I was like, this is cinema. This is what movies are for.
Yeah, it's Scorsese over your shoulder.
Yes.
Yeah, totally. I feel the same way because it's so dumb and so ridiculous, but also kind of fun. And like, I could see like there's animated movies that have been done of like, what was it? Rise of the Guardians, where it's
I was
going
to say we didn't talk about Rise of the Guardians at all, and we probably should have.
It's like all the legendary holiday characters, but it's like there's been mashups like that before, so why not just go a step further?
Yeah.
But that was my number 2. My number 1 is Polybius.
Of course it is.
Again, partly because I'm like, I could see myself writing, and I've been starting to throw out ideas for this kind of thing. I probably wouldn't keep the core name Polybius just because I know it's like
it's not a very marketable name.
Yeah, and the legend itself, like I wouldn't want to take too many liberties with the actual, like there's like an entire history on Wikipedia of the legend, and I'm like, I'm not as like into.
But that's an argument though. That's an argument for why you should keep it though, because it has a built-in audience technically, and doing brand awareness,
but doing a completely different thing than what's on the Wikipedia page with the actual
people
other than mind control.
You've seen the Super Mario Brothers movie; it would basically be that.
That's true. That's true.
It's nothing like the game, but it's named Super Mario Brothers.
Luigi Mario. Wait, Mario's your last name? And then who are you? Mario.
Luigi Mario.
But yeah, Polybius, it's one of the, and I really like, maybe it's because I saw Licorice Pizza just now too, but this Alana Haim character,
No, she's perfect. She's the only person for that role.
Our core, like sort of a like young woman, like who's this arcade master, with a bunch of like nerdy like dweeby dudes, and like that I like the idea of like a woman in this role that, especially in the 80s, is very odd because it's like such a male dominated sort of I don't want to say industry. It's not an industry, but a subculture. And then, the idea of this game that's controlling people, and we have these 2 idiot cops that get involved, like Nice Guys style. And I like the 3-hander of this arcade girl and then these 2 idiot cops.
And I did just remember that our villain's name is Billy.
And
was
the
Born
kid.
Billy. I forgot about Born Billy, and now I want a T-shirt and a hat that says Born Billy.
I just thought of the name Billy the Kid. Totally makes sense. He's like, I'm not
It
a
does,
kid.
you're right.
I'm an
Billy
adult.
the actual kid.
I'm 47 years old. But anyways, that's my number 1. I love it, and I'm probably going to try to further develop it into something.
Well, my number 1 is Karma. Probably surprisingly,
that was the only one left.
I think because I would write that tomorrow. Like it feels very. I like how simple and contained it is. I like how slightly topical it is, and I like how absurd it is, but how grounded you can pull it off. It's a really simple concept that I don't know. I really, really liked it, and I liked it. It felt like, I think I was just inspired. It's almost like when an idea feels writable to me, it seems it's more appealing, obviously, than to write it right now.
But yeah, I would agree. When something's very easy to write, especially on our show, you get attached to it. For me, I'm like, I think about those ideas constantly, especially when we revisit the podcast, or I see your podcast in the app and I see a title of something we've written that it's like would be easy to write, and I think about it a lot more. So I mean, it makes sense that'd be number 1 on your list.
And I just love all these cars headed toward the Grand Canyon. I love a car. I love the amount of times that we run over that guy, and like
Yes. I just like, and the complete 180 when she hits a guy and you think he's dead.
I'm just,
and then it becoming sort of like this unlikely duo kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love that. Okay. Well, those are our 11 so far. We've developed a lot of features on this show, Seth.
This was the one year though, where I remember last season I looked at it and was like, wow, like I love most of these ideas. Like,
yes, I don't think there's as much heavy hitters this year.
I didn't feel, exactly. I look at this list and I'm like, okay.
To me, like our top 5 are great, and then we've got like a bottom 6 that are like,
that are real rough. Yeah, I felt like this season was a little more discouraging in terms of the quality we were able to put out.
Maybe we need to refresh our and throw back in some of our old genres and different things to start. Because as we do these, we're retiring the genres and the tones and the demographics stuff like that. So maybe we bring some back and. Of course, they're randomized, so they'll be mixed up a bit. But we're sort of scraping the bottom of the barrel in terms of genres and stuff now. So it might help us get
cut to episode 1 of season 3, erotic thriller, starring Leslie Nielsen.
Hey, that sounds fun to develop. The Writers' Room Game Show with me, Ryan Pollard, and Seth Worley. Executive produced by Grant Wakefield at Weekend Video and Ann Fogerty at Plot Devices. Edited to perfection by Rene Gomez. Our art is by your buddy, Meg Lewis, and our face-melting music by Ben Worley. The The Writer's Room Game Show is a Weekend Video production in association with Plot Devices. Learn more about Weekend Video at weekend.video and check out writersroomgame.show to listen to all of our episodes and suggest your own prompts for future shows. And don't forget to rate and review our show on Apple Podcasts. It really helps our show out a lot. See you in the next one.